Be going live. Could be quiet at first. I'm gonna try and get things set up. Got about I think 50 banners sitting here of 60 that I've got to hem, and I thought this is a good time to go live, so here we are. So let me get things set up. I'm gonna be hiding back here in the corner for a minute. But yeah, if anybody jumps on, just give me a hi, let me know you're here. I'm going to try and get this set up on this side so I can watch comments. Since I can't see comments on my phone, since that's what I'm using right now. I'm getting there. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm doing this one on my phone today, so the audio is not going to be great. Oh, hey. Hey, guys. Yeah, nothing too exciting. I just figured, I'm going to be stuck out here working, so I might as well jump on live and see if anybody bounces in and says hi. So yeah, these are all relatively small, so a little bit of a pain time-wise. We got to hem and drum up the whole things, but they're 2 foot by 3 foot, 60 of them, till they throw me some more. But I think that's the current count that I've got. My other roll of banner came in, so I could print the last 4. So I guess technically I've got 56 done, but there's 48 out here. Well, no, that's not true. I did trim up the rest of them this morning, or like an hour ago. So now it's hymn time. So I figured it'd be a good time to jump on. I'm going to be looking back this way so I can see comments, since I can't see the comments on the phone. Yeah, no, these are small ones. Usually, anytime we've done the large ones, it's no more than usually 10 to 20. Still manageable. Print time's about the same, but my hem time's quicker. These take a lot of time. Hey, Rigo. Hopefully I said that right. Rigo, not Rigo. How are you guys doing? Keeping busy. Sorry about that noise. Apparently I've got the alarm going off on my phone. Don't know what that one was. I'll take a look at it later. But yeah, so Rigo, I've got the Epson S series I had two of the Mutos, the 1304 back in '08, and then I had a 1324 to replace it. And then I got the Epson about a year ago, maybe a little more. Somewhere in that time frame. I don't believe I have a video on YouTube about it when I got it. I did an uncrating video of the laser when it arrived, but I don't think I did the printer. I think we were fighting some possible rain that day, so I wanted to get that unboxed, uncrated, put together outside. So we were kind of moving quick on that one. Sorry, I'm going to keep bouncing back here to check comments. All right, cool, Rigo. Hey, what's up, Craig? Yeah, like I said, this one's a little boring. I mean, we're just hemming a crap ton of small banners, and eventually we'll do grommets, but I have a feeling I'm not going to be on here long enough to go through everything. Yeah, as long as there's people on here chatting, I'm happy to stay on, but I have a feeling we'll probably get an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But yeah, one of the things, I can't tell if you can see, actually I can come around that side. I know I've covered this in a couple of previous videos, but I'm sure some of you haven't seen them. But what we'll typically do, let me show you one, is around the perimeter of the banner, we'll print typically our logo around the perimeter. So when we hem it, you know, it's always on the back. This one, these happen to be wholesale jobs. So we've actually got, one of the value adds we do is add their logo to the back. So makes a good value add both for us and for them. So. And then for jobs like this, you know, I just basically, what I typically do, especially when it's a bulk like 60 banners, I just write a script in Photoshop to get the scale, make sure that the sizing of the banners is correct, to do that overlay with their logo around the outside, to expand the canvas, and then we also add a black outline around it so it makes it easier to trim and not have to do it through the rip. So yeah, so since I do jobs for these guys pretty often, I've got that file set up. So all I got to do is bring in their images, run the script, and it'll go out and modify all 60 of them. Actually, it doesn't modify them. I save an alternate copy, but you get the idea. So that way I still have their originals if I ever needed them for anything. I will bounce over back to the comments here in a sec. Let me get at least this one knocked out, and then I'll be happy to see what I might be missing. Yep, so there we go. So one done. The back has the logos going all the way around. Of course, you know, you'll kind of lose a little visibility where we do the grommets when we get to that point. Yeah, Mike, we do those pretty often. This is actually a 5x8 work table. I do have a flip-up extension, so I can add another 30 inches. Although in my space, since I've moved back here, is a little limited, so I don't typically do that. But yeah, I mean, when we're doing, I mean, we've done 12-foot signs in here as well. And yeah, it gets a little tight. Doing the long banners, I think the longest one we've done on this table is 16 foot. But yeah, we just kind of roll it up, lay down the hem tape. You know, you can figure it out. You can make it work, and I'm sure you know that. So It's a little bit more time consuming than having one big table, but it's not terrible. I mean, even doing, when I went live the other day, even doing those 4 foot by 4 foot canvases is a bit of work, because, you know, trying to stretch the canvas across the space. But that's why I typically don't do much bigger than a, well, that's not true. I mean, we've done 4 by 6 and 4 by 8 canvases also on the table, and that gets a little, 4 by 6 is still manageable, I mean, with a 5 foot wide table. The 4 by 8s is a pain in the butt. You know, when you're trying to go around and stretch the canvas, especially the first half of the time, when you're really having to do one staple on every edge and then just work your way around until you get a good stretch going. After I get these done, the next thing I got to do is get that truck wrap off the take-up reel and get that laminated and prepped. Originally, I was thinking I'd get that truck done this week, but between this job and a couple of others that I've got going on, I've got another one for a car dealer and a couple other larger backdrops that I've got to do. I think I'm not going to mess with the truck until probably next week. Not sure if I'll go live on that one or not. I might. I've done it before, at least a partial live when we're wrapping. But we'll see. And I know there was talk about me doing a video of how to basically build a wrap template. I still have that in my queue. I thought I'd have some time this morning to work on that, but I did not. So I'll end up just taking that truck wrap that we talked about, and I'll just go back through the process basically. I'm not sure if I'll go into the full detail, but I'll give you at least a good overview. I just find that all my customers really like being able to see their actual vehicle when we do the mock-up, their actual vehicle, the way it's going to look. You know, rather than buying a template that isn't always that accurate, and it's kind of generic, but, you know, gets the job done, I guess. But saving the money of buying the template and just putting a little bit of extra time into it, you can build your own. Let me jump back over to the comments and see what I'm missing over there. Oh, guess I didn't miss anything. You guys aren't really chatting, so that's cool. No worries. What about you guys? What else you guys got going on? I know there's always something. The daily grind, or the special projects, or the rush jobs like this. This one was one that we do for them every year, actually twice a year, and they usually give me a heads up, and they did give me a heads up, and they were supposed to send me the art on Thursday so we could get started on it. Didn't send me the art till Sunday, actually Sunday night, so didn't really get working on it until until Sunday. Well, no, I guess Sunday afternoon technically. So started printing them then. Try and get a jump on it since they need these done and in their hands by Thursday. Rico, maybe. The pain is it's kind of unique for every job. So it's not like, you know, like for example, this is for one of my wholesale guys, right? So let's say wholesale is Joe Blow. And he does this, let's say, relatively often, but let's say it's one banner at a time and they're different sizes, then there's not really an easy way to automate the process. I mean, I haven't found anyhow. So now if I'm doing a ton of a specific size, then I'll do what I was talking about and I'll build that template. And then I'll just let Photoshop do it. Otherwise, usually what I'll do is if it's like just a one-off, then I've got basically a step. It's like a step and repeat, right? I've just got a step of their logo with spacing set to like 8 foot wide. And I'll just bring in the art I use Flexi. I'll just bring the art into Flexi, and then I'll just do a 1-inch outline with a black border, so that way it gives me my 1-inch outside cut. And then I'll just take that 8 foot long step of their logo, drag it into the space, and then just get rid of the extras. And then I just copy it, paste it down at the bottom, do the same on the sides. I mean, it takes me like less than a minute. But for these, like I said, I'm building a Photoshop template and an action set to do it. So what I did with that is I just built, these are always 2 foot by 3 foot. So what I did was I just built a Photoshop, a PSD or a JPEG even, of a document that's 2 foot by 3 foot. Actually, I add 2 inches all the way around. So instead of being 36 inches, the print's 36, their final print's 36, but I actually size it to 40. So it's 40 by 28. So I do an image that's 40 by 28, and then I just put their logo within that 1-inch border around the edge, and I save that as a document. Actually, I think I do leave it as a PSD. So then basically what I do is I just write a script to bring in an image, size it to 24 by 36, make sure that it's sized properly, because sometimes we get them a little off. Size it to 24 by 36, then I do a canvas expand, and I blow the canvas out to our 40 by 28, and then I overlay the backdrop with their logo in it and send it to the back, and that's pretty much it. And then it's pretty much ready to go. So, and then the script basically just opens all the files in a directory, applies all that script, and then just saves the output file. So hopefully that made sense. If you have more questions about it, let me know, and I'll be happy to verbalize it at least for now. Otherwise, all this chat was just slowing me down. I only got like 2 done so far. Just kidding. I will say you do get a little bit of sore fingers, so sometimes I'll put a glove on to do these hems. Very cool, Craig. How old is he? Sorry, this one's not quite exciting. It's kind of the repetitive process, but oh, 3, wow. So he's young. Our grandson's 3, so he was here yesterday. He'll help us laminate sometimes. My wife, his Gigi, will put him up on the table and help me pull stuff through. He'll be 4 in December, so yeah, 3.5. She's actually over their house today watching him, so. Ah, 4 in February, cool, yeah, so just a little bit younger. Yeah, he'll be 4 December 9th. Time consuming and boring, but whatever. See, that's the reason I threw you guys on, you know, because at least it'll kind of distract me and we can chat a little bit. Otherwise, I just have the music blaring out here, trying to get through it. Four of 60, woohoo! Yeah, I think with the math I did, it's going to use 6 rolls of hem tape. And this was not a new roll, this was a existing roll that I've been using, so. We do have a chance of rain here today, which is great. We've had like crazy dry weather. I mean, the ground is all cracked, our stuff's all dying. We did get a little bit of rain. I'm sure you may have seen Dallas got hit with some pretty crazy rain actually, but we didn't get it in the burbs. It was kind of Dallas proper, which is insane. They got like 14 inches or something in like a week, and we've got like 2.5 or 3 here, so. We're all for a little bit more rain. Well, at least those of us where I am. That's a good question, Craig. I mean, I don't do a ton of wholesale, and I'm nowhere near as cheap as, you know, a lot of the places you could go. So I'm definitely not looking to wholesale to anybody out here, typically. I mean, certain aspects I don't mind doing, you know, certain work, but usually it just doesn't make sense. I'm not that cheap. But, you know, for other brokers that do other work in my area, you know, I've got guys that I do work for that, you know, are screen printing and or embroidery guys. I've got guys that do other kinds of printing, you know, regular digital print stuff like business cards and booklets and all that kind of stuff that don't do wide format. So, and they're not doing a ton of this work. I mean, eventually, you know, occasionally I'll get bigger orders, but normally they're like, oh, you know, we need a couple of signs, or we need a sign, or we need a couple graphics for a car, or whatever it might be, and I give them a fair price, but not a. My pricing's all over, so I don't have a consistent price. It kind of depends on the customer that I'm dealing with. It depends on the job. So yeah, I don't have a good answer for you there. And a lot of times if I'm really even concerned with it, then what I'll do is just tell them, well, this is normally where we would be for a regular retail customer, especially if it's somebody new. And then I just tell them, like, what price do you need me to be at? And if I can hit it, I'll hit it. And if I can, I can. I mean, I want to build a good relationship with somebody, and I want to be honest, and I want it to be a win-win deal, right? So, that's kind of how I'll approach that kind of a job. But like I said, typically I'm getting pretty consistent businesses from those guys. I'm not looking at necessarily adding more of that, because that kind of work is a good time filler, right? Although this one's not. It's kind of jumping into a few other things, but I'm still doing fine on it. It's close to a low retail, so. But, I am doing some value-add stuff. Number one, I'm turning it for them real quick, 2 days in hand. I'm adding their logo to it, which none of the other wholesale print companies will be doing. So, and we do a lot of work off each other too, so. Like I had him do a rush job for me for another one of my customers, where he's more of a screen printer than anything, but he actually has a DTG machine that he uses for some stuff. And I needed a very specific full color graphic done for a church project on 50 shirts. And he was able to DTG for me and get it done over the weekend, so I cannot complain. All right, Mike, have a good one, man. Yeah, I mean, pricing, you can get more consistent, I think, on your pricing when your business is more consistent, if that makes sense. Like if I focused on doing nothing but banners, or 90% of my, the bulk of my business was banners, I would have consistent pricing, both for wholesale and for retail, right? Because it's enough that I'm doing it all the time, right? But, when you're doing, you might have a week where you're doing a crap ton of banners, and then you might go a month without touching them. And it's like, it's a typically a lower, it's a higher profit for material costs, but not for labor. So, the reality is what I'm going to make on this job in the 2+ days it's going to take me to do, I could have done that truck wrap and made a whole lot more money. So it's all relative. I'll still get the truck wrap done, so I'm not booked. I'm not busy enough that I could say no to this. Does that make sense? So, and like I said, it's a good customer that also does work for me occasionally. So. Yeah, DTG. DTG, in my opinion, it's the worst of the options. It's the least efficient of all the options out there. It's super niche for it to make sense. If you've got the niche, man, go for it. But I can tell you, I know a lot of people in the industry that will tell you they made a big mistake by buying DTG. Some of them still have them, some of them got out of them eventually, but I can tell you that, and I've got friends that have tried them too over the years, and just not worth it. So Now we have a chain franchise here, which is probably all another place around the country. Forget what it's called, Big Frog or something like that. And that's kind of their niche. They go into retail strips, and they do DTG as the bulk of their business. Some of them are now offering screen printing and embroidery too, but really DTG is their main focus. And for that it makes sense. They're doing 1-2 shirts for 25, starting at $25 and going up. Depending on exactly what you're doing, how large the print is it white, is it dark, blah, blah, blah. Do they have to underbase it, do they not, etc. But, do you want to deal with the one-off, two-off customers? I don't. I mean, I'm, the bulk of my stuff is B2B, and I want to keep it that way, so. And if I'm doing B2B, for me to print 50 plus shirts on a DTG, even if I had it in-house, there's a lot of time and expense in that. You got to do a proper pre-treat, you got to cure it, you got to do your print, you got to cure that. Technically, you're supposed to do a post-wash. I mean, it's a lot for a freaking shirt, whereas when I'm screen printing a shirt, shit, I mean, I can knock out a ton fast. And I don't have an automated press. Actually, technically, I don't have my press now because since I moved back here, it's in storage, but I've still got a lot of friends. So, the fact of the matter is you can knock out as many as 800 shirts an hour on a screen printing press. Try and do anything close to that with a DTG. So, again, it's all relative. Especially now with the advent of transfers. If you're doing fulfillment orders for somebody, especially to DTG those, man, that's still a lot of work when you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the fulfillment order is, versus you can have them pre-buy, let's say 250 transfers, and you can do screen printed transfers, you can do DTF if you really want to. I'd stick as close, unless it's full color. I mean, I'd stick with the screen printed transfers. But have them. You pre-order the screen printed transfers, you stock them, and then when you're doing your fulfillment orders, you just order the shirts in for the fulfillment order. You heat press them on, and you're done. I mean, you don't have to mess with any of the other stuff. You don't have to do any printing. And yes, both DTF and DTG both really suffer from maintenance issues, big time. I mean, even, matter of fact, here's something funny. So, typically, what they tell you, or what the common scenario is that, unless you're printing all the time on a DTF or a DTG, you're going to end up with head clogs. You're going to end up with problems, especially on the white inks. Well, I know I had a friend that needed a last-minute shirt order, contacted me. I told him the best thing I could do for him was I could do a transfer. But it was a really large print. It was kind of rectangular. And I'm like, man, that's going to be a heavy print. I mean, I would say, go and maybe do a DTG. And I explained to him about the Frog guys. Well, their white head's down, so they couldn't do she wanted a black shirt. They couldn't do it because they can't do the white underbase. So she had to go with a white shirt. So she wasn't thrilled, but at least she got her shirt. And, that's a shop that uses that thing all the time, and they've got multiple printers, so that's kind of surprising that they had issues with that. So either they've got a problem with ink supply, or they've got a problem with the ink on the printer, with the printers. But yeah, I'm not. To me, that's just the least efficient of all the methods, DTG. Most of the guys that I know that got them in the screen printing world got them just for doing proofs. Which is kind of funny because, and a lot of them have gotten rid of it because they realized, well, yeah, it was easier to do a proof than having to print screen, create screens and do the prints. But the proof didn't match the printing once they were doing screen printing. So, so much for the proof. Now, a couple of them do use them for, or have used them. That plan was to use them for what we were talking about doing fulfillment, but they same issue. They just started, it's like, well, when they did a big batch of shirts, they would just print a buku of transfers with the same process that they're doing with the shirts, and they'd be ready to go for them later when they did their fulfillments. So then rather than having to reset up the whole press and run the whole press, if they're only doing, 20, 30 shirts or less, they could just have somebody on the heat press or two just running through them real quick, doing transfers of the screen print. Slow going. No more comments. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not missing something for you guys. If you head out, let me know. Give me a heads up. Or anybody new dropping in, say hi. If you haven't. And like and subscribe and all that fun stuff if you haven't too. I'd gotten bad about not doing lives, so I was like, well, there's certain things that I do that are a little bit repetitive that it's a good time, right? So not necessarily great visuals for you guys, but a good time to just jump on, chat with others in the industry. Answer questions if I can. Temperatures must be dropping outside because it is feeling humid in here, but it's 72 degrees in here, so the AC is on, it's just not really, it's only 63% humidity, so it's not high, but yeah, they when it comes to the companies trying to sell DTG, of course they make it look like it's no big deal, it's easy, blah blah blah. It's like, well, yeah, but you need, you really want to do it right. You really want a true pre-treat machine, which a decent pre-treat machine is going to cost you between $3,500 and $6,000, depending again on the quality and what it's capable of, speed-wise and all that stuff. And then you really want to get a good, either have a conveyor dryer or a flash dryer that can actually set it, or you can do the slower method, which is on a heat press. So, and you're not really pressing it, you got the heater just floating over it, giving it heat. So, and if you're going to do something like that, you don't want to use a cheap Chinese press because it doesn't have even heat, so it's not going to cure it evenly, so you got to spend good money on a press, or you got to spend good money on flash, or anyhow, there's more to it, right? I mean, I guess for that matter, it's the same with this stuff, right? It's like, oh, I can get a Epson S series for blah, for 15 grand. Well, yeah, but then you really want to get a cutter, you really want to get a laminator, you really want to get all support equipment. So it's not always what you initially see. Real good example of that, especially, is on the roll-to-roll print side. You can get into a printer pretty cheap, but boy, that finisher gets freaking expensive. But I guess in that regard, I mean, it's not quite as bad, but it's not much different in even digital print, right? I mean, you can get a digital press reasonable, but you know, depending on what kind of finishing you want built in, you know, you want the booklet maker, you want this, you want that, you want the sheet, you know, you can add, you can get double your price of your press pretty quick. And of course, screen printing is another great example of that. Embroidery isn't so bad, actually. There's not a whole lot of support equipment that you need other than the main machine. So that's probably one of the only ones that you don't need a ton of support stuff. Typically, the only things that you're really adding on is, you know, more hoops and frames, or something like the Hoop Master system, the magnetic hoops, which are not cheap, but nowhere near the price of most machines. So you don't have near the support add-on costs for something like embroidery. But screen printing, man, you can go nuts. You don't have to, but you can. I mean, something as simple as an automatic coder can cost you $10,000+. Again, one of the things that you just need to be busy enough to justify. Otherwise, you got laborers or yourself or whatever that can do that, not as consistently and not always as cost effectively. But typically, when you're not doing that 8 hours a day, unless you're a bigger shop. If you're a bigger shop, then it's easier to justify those costs. You know, you're moving enough to make it happen. Just for those that are just getting into things or thinking about trying to get into things. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I need to replace my cutting mat again. I don't remember how many years ago I replaced it, but it's gotten so bad I'm actually using it flipped over right now, and it doesn't work the same at all. So it's time for me to order one. Problem is that not many people make the 5x8. They're kind of harder to find, and the pricing is kind of unfair. So you can get the 5x10s more commonly. And of course the 4x8s. So anyhow, it's getting close to time to order one though. Yeah, I'll have to check with them and see if they've actually got the 5x8. And normally what I'll do is I'll cut off part of it and use it on my 30-inch extension, but since I'm not really using that right now, probably will just leave it alone. That one doesn't get near as worn because I don't do as much work down on that end when I've got the extension on. Okay, so you did get the 5x8 from them. Well, then I will double check. And I think they were doing free shipping too, weren't they, or shipping included? Yeah, you'd think Grimco and those, your GSG, or they'd have a little bit better deal, since you don't have to pay that crazy shipping cost, but because they can just crate them in with everything else, but the pricing's typically not that great. Not bad. I don't do the grids. I don't remember the coupons. If you got a coupon thing, send me a private message on Discord or whatever, and let me know what that was. I'll take a look at it again. Maybe it's time to maybe it's time to order that up. I want to say the last time I replaced this one, it was only like $160, but that was many moons ago, so it makes sense the pricing's gone up. Well, not many, but definitely pre-COVID. Probably, I'd guess I've had this one probably 5 or 6 years. No other talking topics? Come on, guys, give me something. What are you working on? I saw what you're doing, Craig. Realize I'm probably putting people to sleep with this, but that's why we're trying to get conversation going, right? I may have to take a break just from the boredom myself. Go in and get something to drink. It's probably getting close to food time, actually. Yeah, 11:45. So that might be a good time. So let's plan on stopping at 12:15 or 12 o'clock. Central Standard Time, that is. So about 15 minutes. I will take a break. I need to actually go deal with some emails anyhow. I got to do a couple more quotes that I've been putting off. So I'm going to go get those knocked out. Actually, technically, I think there's only one quote. The others are estimates for orders, or approved orders that I need to get written up. A couple more dance floor wraps, another backdrop. I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, and then I got the dealer that I'm doing some signage and stuff for that I've worked with before. We're now going to do, well, originally we were going to tint a lot of the offices at the new location, but after going out there, now we're only going to tint like less than a quarter of the windows that we were originally going to, and now we're going to do custom roll-up shades. So less labor for us, but also a little less profit, but easy work, so got to get those ordered too. We measured all the windows. Hey, what's up, Rigo? Do you recommend the Muto? Man, that's a hard one. I'm not a huge Roland fan, but I mean they are kind of have traditionally been one of the standards in the industry. If you want to print and cut, I think theirs is a good option. If you want an integrated print and cut, I specifically did not want an integrated print and cut because I'm like, why am I tying up my printer that could be printing, doing cutting? So, you know, when we started in 08, I did order the Muto and I had the 54-inch cutter separate. So that way I could do my cutting while I'm printing and not tie up my printer. So I like that regard. But I mean, you know, the Rolands seem to last. I mean, everybody I know that's had them has generally been happy. Typically kind of stick with them most of the cases. So yeah, I mean, it kind of boils down to your experience and personal experience and what you know, it's hard to give an answer there. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of latex. I know a lot of the guys that here are. I've had numerous friends get latexes as early as 09, like when HD came out with the 09s. I think it was 09. Might have been 08. With mixed results. So, and I know the technology's come further, but you know, like heck, even Epson now has the resin printer, which is basically their version of latex. So again, personal call. I mean, if I were looking, like when I was replacing my last Muto, I did consider another Muto, but I had, you know, the thing is, the Epson, almost all the printers use the Epson printhead, so they had the newest version of the printhead just for their own printer to start with. So ink prices were good. So I matter of fact, when I got my last Muto, the 1324, the Epson came out like 6 months later, the new S series, and I was like, dang it, man! If I had known, I probably would have waited and got it, but I didn't. So when it was time to finally replace that one, that's when I got the Epson. So. other than the fact that it had a bigger footprint than my old Muto, because I had the 54-inch Muto, not the 65-inch. That's really the only negative in my regard. The latexes are interesting. The front load is kind of cool, although that's a little awkward to me at times too. So, you know, it's what you'll end up getting used to. Pick a direction and you'll make it work. What's up, Eddie? Okay, so yeah, so you've got a latex now. So yeah. I don't have any experience personally with the new Muto. The new Muto is using newer inks, newer heads, especially the big one. So again, I've got people I know in the industry that use them and like them. But I didn't dislike my Mutos until I started having problems with them, which was, you know, obviously many, many years in. It wasn't like it happened right away. And I was actually able to repair and maintain my Mutos myself almost exclusively, which saved me a lot of money. Matter of fact, I've got, right over on this wall behind you, I've got almost all the electronics out of the 1324. So I've got the motor controllers, I've got the motors, I've got the motherboard, I've got the power supply. So I've got a ton of parts left for people that might need them in that generation Muto, because it fit like 4 or 5 of their printers, most of those parts. Now the Epson I haven't had to do a thing to. Maintenance is super easy. But, you know, I'd heard generally good things about the HPs for maintenance. Except for the fact that you had to replace the heads pretty often. One of my friends that had one was replacing the heads almost as often as he replaced ink. He said pretty much every 2 cycles of ink he was replacing the head. He was printing a ton too, so. Oh wow, okay. And so now you're having problems getting the ink. I know that was even a problem for the Epson for a short time. At first it was specific colors, and then all of a sudden it was like all the colors, and then that lasted only about, I think, 2 weeks. And luckily I wasn't affected by it personally, but you know, some chemical or whatever that they're using in the inks wasn't available from wherever. The fact that the HP print heads are cheap is nice, you know, versus $2,000 to $3,000 for an Epson head. But on both of my old Mutos, I never replaced the head. I mean, when it finally got time to replace one, the thing was 7 years old, so it was like 7, 8 years old. It was like, it's not even worth it anymore to deal with it, you know, because then you're taking your chance of replacing the head and that not being your only problem. So that's kind of when I said, you know, it's time to just ditch it and get the new printer. But I do have a friend that's got a Roland. I forget the model now, but I can't recall him having to do any major maintenance. Well, tell you what, guys, I'm gonna have to run. I got a customer here to pick up those canvases. So, and I was gonna cut off soon anyhow. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for jumping on. Like and subscribe, etc. And I'll see you guys on Discord. So have a good one. I am gonna take off. Take care. Thanks, guys.